The general theme is how does it feel to be a hypocrite?
Right. Well, he sounds like a royal dirtbag.
I was wrong about something.
Magnificent! Magnificent! Magnificent!
If we can be with ourselves, if we can understand ourselves, we can love.
It's not my fault nobody can understand what you're saying.
Let's go while we're young.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, just introduce yourself and tell me what you ate for breakfast.
Here. Yeah, there we go. Looks like it's back up. All right. Hopefully that worked. I don't know, technology, it's fun, isn't it? And when you're running the show yourself, which is great, I love it. I'm happy to do it. But you got to press a lot of buttons and hold the right keys down or whatever, I guess. But here we are. So again, 5 to 6 months after my daughter died in a car crash, there's a gentleman that walked into my store and he introduced himself by first name only. He then gave his condolences and he went right into criticizing me. Went right into criticizing me for some media interviews. He criticized me for things like presentations I had given. I don't know if he was there or not, honestly, but he goes right into that. And of course, the natural reaction is to get really defensive. And it's just a natural thing for us to do that. After it's such a traumatic time of my life, right? And then someone does this and criticizes you, and it's I felt wildly unprepared for that criticism, because up to that point I didn't have any criticism for what I was doing as a whole, a little bit here and there on certain things, but he was throwing these things at me, and it was unbelievably uncomfortable. And what they would be called was the whataboutisms. He was throwing these whataboutisms at me, and I found out that when I faced direct criticism, I felt defensive, unprepared to calmly and openly discuss the whole issue, right? The whole picture, if you will. My view to that point was considered narrow. And so as he was throwing these whataboutisms, I sort of understood that sometimes they're used with intentions to shift the focus to a counter accusation. They're to maybe sidestep or go around the original point, or it can also force us to look at our standard through a different lens. I got some messages yesterday about my waist standard. This is my favorite brand of tape measure. I won't show it to you, but I can see it well. It's very colorful, and I picked this tape measure because it has the automatic lock, and we find our favorite standards and things like that, right? And so my waistline that I've had for a very long time is 32, by the way. You're welcome. And if I measure that standard, what if I use circumstances to deflect that standard to, as today is number one about whataboutisms, is to deflect criticism and avoid accountability. And what if I were to say that 32 is that those pants, that's it. And then I make excuses. what if this happens, and what if that happens, and whatever else. And then so chan- tho- those standards basically change, and then I give it an opportunity to go down a road that I'm gonna be a victim, right? That's ultimately what it ends up being. And I'm gonna really focus in on one item at a time here. I've decided on the whataboutisms, and here's why. I am so this morning show, I need to reiterate to those of you trolls specifically. This is just to be here and to be real. I didn't brush my hair. I didn't brush my teeth. I don't think I put deodorant on yet. But anyway, it's just to be here and be real. And these are real circumstances that I'm trying to talk about. These are real questions that people have. These are I've spent over a decade now just really tuning in and listening to people, not just one group of people either. I've literally had my feet on the ground and had in 47 of the continental, lower 48, 47 states of the United States of America in the last decade. And I've had the opportunity to talk to thousands and thousands of people in non-guided conversations, just meeting people in restaurants or in the elevator at a hotel or at breakfast at a hotel or in the airport or Lyft and Uber rides and all those things. And so these things that I've collected, these stories that I have to tell, are something that I'm going to put on the website as yes, it's going to be paid content. And so what I've decided to do with these, and I hope you're still following me here, is this particular 7 items of whataboutisms I'm going to go through, not in as depth as I would on the content that I'm going to have on the website, but in depth enough for you to get kind of a taste of what it is and just being very real about it. And so this is going to take days. In fact, it's going to take a couple of weeks to go through these 7 items. And I just want you to sink your teeth into some of these things. Another thing that I need to say too is that Facebook, my personal Facebook, is struggling in the sense that they're taking the content down after 30 days now. That's their new policy, whatever. And that is, that is what it is. These videos are just going to be gone. So I really want to direct as many of you loyalists to the show and to learning these things over to Matt Logan Official on YouTube. That's going to be the future, the way it looks in things, because the content after the live show eventually is just going to be pulled. That's where Facebook is headed. It's live shows are just simply going to be pulled down, maybe immediately after or days after the show is done. The live thing is done on channels like this, just the way it is. Matt Logan Official on YouTube. So anyway, number 1 here, to deflect criticism and avoid accountability is what is one key thing that people use for whataboutisms, is to deflect their criticism and to avoid that accountability. So when using whataboutisms to deflect criticism and or avoid that accountability, it sinks our teeth into a cognitive bias of deflection, right? So there's a lot of individuals that would use these things as kind of a self-preservation to preserve their self-image, sometimes maybe even to position themselves as superior to you or superior to your message by redirecting the blame. Maybe they feel shame or guilt because of your message, and they use that as a method to do those things, to put that blame and shame back on you, or at least make that attempt. That is one thing that people do for whataboutisms. I don't believe that most people use them that way, but that is one example of what it is. And so let's call the gentleman Dave that walked into the store. He was criticizing me, saying that my interpretation of distracted driving was biased based off of the love for my daughter, the love for my family, and it basically basically what I was doing was avoiding engaging with a critique of what I was doing. And so I'm going to wrap this up here because we're already over 10 minutes. When people use it as that way, they're doing it because they want to basically persuade through things other than merit. They want to persuade through things more about evading their own scrutiny, maybe looking at, was he a distracted driver? And let me say this about Dave, as I'm going to call him. I've only had his first name. Weeks or a month after I met Dave for the one time, my manufacturing business burnt to the ground. I had to close the store, never to see Dave again. But I spent hours with Dave that day, and I learned a massive amount about communicating a message. And I learned a massive amount about what his technique was. And I'm going to talk about that, in the coming days. So I don't want to leave a negative taste of Dave in your mouth just yet. It's a really positive conversation. I've shared very little of this publicly. I've shared a little bit of it publicly in things, but it was a remarkable, probably 2.5 hours of my life that I learned a ton of things about what basically whataboutisms are, even though it wasn't called that, at least not at the time. So why don't we give away a shirt here to everybody who's here this morning? So I thank you for being here. I thank you for rewatching and kind of sorting through what this is. This is just a loose conversation and stuff. So I appreciate all of you. Getting let's see, where did it go here? Hit the right buttons. As I was writing these things, as we're finding out who our winner is, looks like we maybe have somebody new in here today. All right, Lish, there you go. Congratulations. As I was writing these notes, and as I've been studying this whataboutism thing for the past several months now, I got to tell you, I'm kind of feeling the emotion of those times in that thing. So hopefully I'll kind of come across all right with those, but it's something I haven't explored this deeply for quite a while. So appreciate all of you. Have a great Tuesday. See you tomorrow.
You know what I just saw?
Who is this guy?
I call myself Podcast because of my podcast.
I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear.
So it's done. It's done.